The USS Monavine is having a spot of engine trouble. Agmas launched a bunch of red aliens into 100 years war. And I don't get what all the negativity is about. Everybody loves black licorice, right?
Oh, gosh.
I do.
Yeah.
I love black licorice.
Me too. It's the black jelly beans, black licorice, black cats, whatever. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton, by the way.
Who hates black licorice?
What? We are joined by the most special of all guests, Mr. Jeffery Combs, everybody.
Thank you. No, stop, please. Stop.
Legendary.
The greatest of all greats. My name is Ryan T. Husk, and I am extremely excited about this. So let's just get right into it. This is Lower Decks Season 2, Episode 7, Where Pleasant Fountains Lie. And Jeff Combs, you just continue to blow us all away. The fans were super excited when they heard the announcement that you were going to be in this episode. And I personally was super excited every time that little black and red box started speaking, and I got to picture Jeff Combs's face making all these hilarious sounds and funny lines.
Yes. I've had to keep my mouth shut for a long time about this. I did it maybe, months ago. And zippy NDAs, can't say anything. but it's there, and I turned out really well. I got a screener. I don't have access to Paramount Plus, that platform, and maybe I should. And so I just really enjoyed it. You never know with these things. You go in it's really different now with voiceover stuff. The protocols are really safe, and it's actually the safest because there's like nobody around. You literally walk from your car with a mask into a room, HEPA filter going. Nobody's in there. Everybody's behind glass or on a Zoom screen that you can look at, and it's just you. And that's safe, but it's not optimum for voiceover, because a lot of the time those are, there's a group of actors and you're bouncing off of each other. Acting is reacting, and it's like you're kind of in a little imaginary bubble of how are they saying that? I have no idea. What's the tone of this thing? I don't know. Well, are they tongue in cheek here? Or are they taking this? I just don't know. So a lot of just like flying by the seat of your pants with this stuff. Turned out great though. I was really happy with that I sort of, it's kind of like music. It's like, oh yeah, okay. I found the key. I found the key they were in. Okay, good. I fit in, sort of.
Oh, you fit in all right. You've always fit in, and not just fit in, but been exceptional and shined brilliantly from your, body of work, and all of your contribution to Star Trek, I think, has been phenomenal. And Ryan and I are rewatching Deep Space Nine, so we get to see you as Wei-Yun. We've seen you as Brunt.
It's an embarrassment of riches. Have you seen In the Cards yet, Cirroc? That's one that we did together. In the Cards.
Yeah, and we also did Far Beyond the Stars together, which you got to play a non-makeup actor, which is great.
I know, for a day. I didn't have a 4:00 call in the morning. You remember that was like all night. That was a night shoot, man, on the back lot of New York, just hanging out. We were in heaven though. And Avery was never better as a director than on that episode. That's one of my favorites of all of Star Trek. It is transcendent, and because of Avery and his performance in front and behind the camera, he was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. The script also brought out the best of all of our performance, because it just allowed us to kind of be these characters.
Oh, you were great in that. You were just this street kid who you were at the mercy of your conditions. You were doing the best with what you had, with the opportunities afforded you. it was one of those potential lost situations, heartbreaking. Just
Yeah.
really one of the things that turned Avery's character, just flipped him. It's great episode all around. So very proud of being part of Deep Space Nine. You have no idea.
Well, we really hope to have you back sometime to do an episode or 10 of Deep Space Nine with us, because as Cirroc mentioned, we are blown away every single time we see you. I mean, well, we could talk about it more another time, but needless to say, when Cirroc and I are watching you, we're very impressed. And as you know, I'm sure you know, the fans are constantly clamoring for you and about you. And in this episode today, everybody has been at a frenzy because they've seen your previous work as Weyoun, as Brunt, as Shran, as the guy on Voyager whose name I don't remember.
What was his name? Pank.
Pank. Right.
Not Pink.
How could I forget?
Well, it's easy.
Breadcrumbs. But so anyway, when you mentioned, trying to meet the tone, obviously that's nearly impossible to meet the tone if you're just talking basically to yourself. It sounds nearly impossible. Did you go in with an idea of exactly what you wanted to do and you just kind of did that 10 times? Was there a director saying, try it like this or try it like that? Or did you just give every line in a few different zany or wacky or creepy or excited ways and let them pick what they wanted?
I'd say kind of a combination of that. You kind of go in with like, I think I'm going to try this, but I got to stay open because maybe that's not what they want. You got to kind of go by the script. You read it, and you get sort of the vibe of the piece. What I loved about Lower Decks is it's just sort of this rapid fire patter, real fast. Sometimes the jokes are past you before you go, wait, but we're on to the next one here. It's very, very clever that way, witty, very sort of quick banter. So I just kind of, okay, that's what they're doing. That's what I'm going to do. It didn't make any sense to me to do anything else. I got some direction from them, but I think pretty much they kind of felt like I was sort of definitely in the ballpark with what I came with. And yeah, I did like, I'll give you 3 of that one. I'll give you 3 versions of that line. And, sometimes all 3 were basically not much different, but then sometimes it was. And so, I gave them options, I guess. What they went with, I thought was pretty much what I was kind of going for myself. So I'm really happy with that.
Sometimes we see actors and they're playing in these different roles and you're like, it's the same guy in all these different movies. Like it's not, there's no change, and you just see the same thing. But with you play all these different parts and it's like completely different. This personality is so different than this other guy. And how do you get that path?
Yeah, thanks for that. Early on, I was taught versatility would give you a career. But then you come to Hollywood and then you kind of hit this wall of, oh, wait a minute, they just want that thing that they know that I do. Like, think about it, like sitcom actors. Some sitcom actors are really good actors, but they're stuck with this stigma of, oh, you do sitcoms. So if we need you for a sitcom, we'll call you. And it's sort of a categorization that we always, as actors, have to fight against, like, no, wait a minute. I'll tell you, Star Trek allowed me to tap into the ability to be versatile with the the production value around me. I can't do this without Bob Blackmon, the wardrobe guy. I can't do this without Mike Westmore. I simply cannot do it without that kind of top drawer support. It's a team, and that's what's so great about it's a lot harder to try to delineate a character when, let's say, you're on a lower budget independent film, and you got some ideas, and they go, yeah, but we don't have the budget for that, and you go, well, okay, right, moving on to plan B. So I just, without that support, I really couldn't be able to do it. Now with this one, I didn't have that stuff. It's just vocally, I wanted to make sure it didn't sound like Wayun, and it didn't sound like Shran. It wouldn't sound like Brunt, not without teeth in my mouth. So,
Brunt, FCA.
So I just sort of tried to find, something that was tonally right, fast talking BS artist,
Well, what it is about you, Jeff, when I'm watching you or when I'm listening to you, or what I expected when it was announced that you were going to play, a character on the show, you don't take any lines off. You don't take any words off. Every single line is delivered in a new and fresh and interesting way that most people would not come up with or imagine or do. I mean, even when like when there's the pause in the episode, blueberry muffins, he says stop, and you go guacamole, or I'm not even going to try to do the way you said it. I listened to it. I went back and listened to it 5 times. I'm like, only Jeff Combs could say guacamole 5 times, or so funny that I could hear it 5 times and laugh every time.
I know. I thank you for that. I appreciate it. It starts with kind of clever writing. You can tell right away with that. Well, this is going to fairly fly along, and just jump in and play. I love that word. It has a newer, more modern connotation, but actors back in Shakespeare's time were not called actors. That word didn't even exist. They were players. I really like that word, players, because that's what you do with acting. You're playing. There's a connotation of fun there, and actors just seems to take itself so seriously. Now, player is doesn't mean that at all anymore. It means something else completely different, and that's words change, meanings of words change.
Yeah, I've always thought the utmost respect for you. You've always been just a consummate professional, always prepared, just a pleasure to be around. And I think that's why you've had such a long career as well, not just your talent, but because of your personality. It was so fun to talk to and be around, and so quick-witted. So you just pick up on so many things all the time.
Well, thank you, Cirroc. I have golden memories of being on set and hanging with you guys, you and Aaron. You were always seemed to be teamed up there whenever I was around. And I just was like, oh, good, I get to play with the boys, because you were boys-ish. You were a young man. I'm sure you were doing very adult things at that time, but but it was a real joy to be with you guys. We had we still do. We have I think of it as a family. Deep Space Nine, and the cast, and the bench. That's the way I think of all the supporting actors. Like, we need a hit. Andy, grab a bat. Or Casey, you're up at bat. Jeff, you're on deck. Okay. So meanwhile, you guys were at home by the pool, enjoying yourself.
I don't know about that. I had a lot of work to do. But this is like your 8th or 7th or 8th different character, and I think you have to be on top of the list of most characters played.
Don't do that to Vaughn Armstrong. Vaughn Armstrong has done 12 different
12
characters.
Okay.
But they weren't all of them were not like recurring. They were like oneers, but still all kinds of different aliens, and from humans to Klingons to Cardassians to that guy, what can you say? That's what was so great about Deep Space Nine, the deep bench.
Yeah. Is this the first time you've played a robot or a computer?
Yeah. Yes, it is the first time that I've played an evil computer. And, people have been asking me that have been interviewing me, what's it like to play yet another evil computer in the Star Trek realm? And I'm going, oh, wait, there were other evil computers? I guess there were. I guess so. Did you do any research on that? Like, no, I did not. I did not. This is a completely different kind of evil computer. I didn't play him evil. I just played him desperately charming to try to get somebody just plug him in. Hey, I have an idea. It's kind of pathetic. It's kind of pathetic, but funny.
Jeff,
it was.
I don't believe you do. Have you done a lot of voiceover gigs? Because you really obviously your voice and your talents lend themselves to decades of future voiceover work.
I have done quite a bit. Way back, I got a call from my regular agents, my theatrical agents, for an inquiry about a voiceover, and I did Scarecrow in a Batman.
Wow.
People still talk about that one. I was like, really? Yeah. And then a little while later, the same thing happened again with Justice League Unlimited, which was a wonderful animated series. And I played The Question. And people really loved what I did with The Question. I've done Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've done Scooby-Doo. And I was like a series regular for 3 years on Transformers Prime. So I played Ratchet.
I knew that. Yeah.
And so let me tell you, that was going to school. Being in a room with the great Frank Welker and Peter Cullen standing right next to me, and all of these other primo voiceover actors in that room. It was really great. So I've done my share of voiceover, but I'm not the most versatile vocally. I mean, literally, there are people that can play 4 roles and you wouldn't know it. And I'm just, that's maybe not me, but it's a skill set. It's a whole other lane that you really have to learn the ins and outs of. But I've done some. I'd like to continue to do it, because you know what? You don't have to get up at 4:30 in the morning. You don't really have to learn the lines. You just have to familiarize yourself with the lines. Yeah. And you're done in 4 hours. Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, okay.
What a deal.
I know.
You can wear sweatpants. You can be comfortable.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't mean it's not challenging. It certainly has its own responsibilities. It is really hard to focus everything about your character into a vocal choice. Sort of like, oh boy, everything's got to come this way, no other way.
I have a question now. When you're recording this stuff, is the animated part of it already done, or are you watching the stuff and like putting a voice over it? Or
no,
okay.
No, usually no.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll give you a visual reference, like this is what your character looks like, and they'll put up a drawing. Okay. They maybe gave you a description of the character, like kind of like they do with sides, Cirroc, that kind of stuff. But you only get to see the visuals when it comes to, let's say, when you have to do ADR looping, little things like after it's created, then you do get to see some stuff. But you've already done your work at that point. It's like you're just fitting in stuff. So no, you don't really get a lot of. And as far as the evil computer, what are they going to show me? a box with a red light on it.
That's what I was laughing about when Cirroc asked that question, as if you were going to say, I'm having problems really harnessing this. And can I have a visual reference? And they go, sure, here it is, a black box. Okay.
Go what I was going to do, but now I do that I've seen this red box. It doesn't help. It wouldn't have helped me very much. It was unfortunately, it was all on the page. It really was. It was just, well written, witty dialogue.
So Jeff, when you saw the screener, presuming you did, and you saw the final product, was there one line in particular that you thought that's my best line, or that you're most proud of, that made yourself laugh, or you were just impressed by yourself yet again?
Well, I was trying to find variations on the same thing here, with like trying to talk these people into just plugging me in. I can help. And on one line, I chose to whisper it. Just plug me in, and the world will be yours. Or I don't remember what the line was, but it was kind of like, I'm gonna try whispering in their ear. That'll get them to,
Yeah.
I kind of like that choice. It's kind of, everything's so fast. It kind of reminded me of a Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny cartoon. It was just so like, whoa, wait, what? When you're a kid, some of those jokes go right over your head. Then later you go, oh, right. That's an adult joke. So it's pretty clever. I really like Lower Decks. I only seen snippets, so the screener was the first full episode.
As Ryan and I review the show, we say that they pack so much stuff into this 25 minutes animated series that it's like the notes for it are just as long or longer than the notes of the full hour-long shows they review.
And I'd also say that they do that on purpose, I think, because we all know that the pace of Star Trek and the tone of Star Trek is a little more serious a lot of the time, and it's sort of reality, even though it's sci-fi fantasy. It is sort of based in human modes of conversation. This one's like amped. It's really almost like, it's not a farce, but it's really at a different pace, and it's refreshing. Kind of shakes up the whole Star Trek universe with a completely different attack. I liked it.
Jeff, obviously your character is not dead. That little black box is locked away. And by the way, shout out to the Daystrom Institute. That was really cool that they said that.
Yes.
So they've left the door open for your character coming back, possibly. I'm sure that may not have been something that they discussed, but have you considered that maybe you'll be getting a call in the future to reprise that role, or maybe another one? And how quickly would you say yes?
Well, let me think about it. Yes. I had a really good time. Who wouldn't want to do that again, especially the way it turned out. So I'm here. I'd look forward to it. And, I'm happy the fans are happy. I'm happy they're happy. It's good. It's good to be back working in the Star Trek realm. A lot of it is gone to another country, and it sort of keeps us marginalized. So there's a little bit of frustration for all of us, all of us that live here on the left coast. It's like, wait, what? Hey, what are we? Chopped liver here? It seems strange. It's kind of like your cousin took over the business. It's like, wait, hey. I mean, I love those shows, but they're just different. They're a completely different approach, and they're a completely different geography, completely different pool of actors, completely different crew. It is another quadrant.
Do you feel like Lower Decks is a little bit more recognizable to you, to the old Star Trek, than the others?
Yes, in some ways, just because it's so whack, swashbuckly. The original series, everybody was, some of those sets were pretty cheesy, but you went with it. And what really sold it was just the outrageous commitment of those actors. No, I, Spock, I don't know my lines. But explain.
That was a pretty good Janeway, by the way.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I know. So, it's got some of that to it, kind of a swagger about it, and I really like that. Sometimes some iterations of Star Trek can take itself a little too seriously, and I like the spice. I like the spice because they're leaning into this stuff, and I really like that.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I mean, I think you brought it up when you said that the terminology of actor versus player, and when I watch you perform, I do sense the playfulness that you have with these characters. I feel like you're having fun. I feel like you're playing with them.
Yeah. I am.
Yeah.
And I am. That's the only way to sort of be full of it, be full of life, or shit, but be full of it, commit, go full on. It's boring to lay back. You're here for a reason. And so elevate. Yeah. So can I tell you a story that maybe I've told it before that Avery told me one time when he was directing me, Cirroc?
Yeah.
So this is the best director's note I've ever gotten. And it's from Avery. Okay. Mr. Miles Davis of Star Trek. Completely different guy when he's directing than when you're acting with him. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but it was a different hat completely. So I'm doing Brunt, and I had a speech. Action, I do it. Avery gets out of the chair, and he walks up to me, and he goes, "We're going to do another one." And slalom. And he walked away. And I went, slalom? What is that? It was like jazz meets downhill skiing here. It's like slalom. And then it hit me. I know exactly what he means. I know what he means. He means just hit those flags. You know the course. Just put it together and just go. Don't break it up. Go. Let the flags hit your shoulder and go. One word. And I knew what he meant. And that's really an actor knowing how to talk to another actor. It was oblique, but very specific. And I did one more take and he went, "Yeah, let's go. We're moving on."
Slalom. That's a great one.
So to this day, I say that to myself often before a take or something. Slalom.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Actually, I remember having a conversation with Avery about you, and I said Jeffrey Combs, and he said, "I think it's pronounced Coombs," and I'd like you to clarify that for me. Is it originally pronounced?
Well, there's some.
What's the word?
Yeah, well, Avery is incorrect on that, but not really. There is another version of my name with 2 O's in it, and Brits can't help themselves. Even when they see my name written in print, they say, "Mr. Coombs." And I say, "Well,
okay.
Is there an O on that?" Because 2 O's, because, it's like you comb your hair with 2 combs, But so he's right. There is a version that's Coombs, but I'm not it. So it's
okay.
So
okay.
So you can go back and slap him upside the head.
I don't know about that, but I'll clarify it.
Well, you could tell him slalom. You could just
I'll tell him
be like,
slalom.
by the way, Mr. Combs says slalom.
Slalom. That's right.
He'll be like, I don't remember that at all.
He won't remember that at all. I'm sure he will. Yeah, I'm sure he will.
No, that's a great direction, though. It's funny how just one word. I'm sure it just left you kind of a little puzzled, like what is.
Just like you're doing right now. I went, what the fuck? And then I went, oh, right. Oh, of course. Yeah, I know what you mean. Instead of using 10 words, like, listen, just this, put it all together, and just let's do another one, and just you got it, you got it. That kind of slalom. It's like, okay, just the economy. It was priceless.
Well, we just have a minute left before we've got to wrap up for our break, and we know that you have to go, Mr. Combs.
Yeah,
but this has been really great. We do hope you come back and see us some other time when we're reviewing Deep Space Nine, or when we're reviewing your next episode of Lower Decks, or your appearance as a crazy alien in Picard, or all of the things
guys,
that are coming up soon.
I would love to do it. Anytime you need a filler, let me know. I just have nothing but great memories of all my time in Star Trek, and I really appreciate this. And I'm glad to be sort of back in the saddle, at least in an animated version here. And I hope everybody enjoys the show. And maybe I'll be back, but who knows? That's not my call, as we all know, as actors, right? Cirroc, it's kind of like, when are you going to be? And you go, well,
I don't know.
Listen,
you tell me.
You got to be asked to dance. If I got to be asked to dance, excuse me, can I dance? You like to dance? That's it's not up to us.
Yeah.
Why aren't you on? It's like, well, because I'm not a producer. Maybe I don't know. So I appreciate this, guys. Thanks. You made my day here.
And on behalf of all the fans, by the way,
job.
Yes, we absolutely loved your performance. Star Trek knows how great you are, and Paramount knows how amazing you are, and the producers get it. But the fans have been clamoring and demanding for. I'm sure they were trying to get you onto Strange New Worlds. We're trying to get you on Discovery.
Worlds, I know, and I just kind of laid low and went, look, that's like. Chances are slim to none, and slim left town, guys. If it were shot here, maybe, but maybe
still might
not
happen.
Anyway, I appreciate it.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. You can never get enough Jeff Combs, and somebody's got to catch Vaughn Armstrong. So you're the closest contender.
Well, he's hearing footsteps. Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully, like the Giants, hearing footsteps with the Dodgers, but maybe we can't seem to.
See, this is where you and I disagree, and I'm very sorry.
Oh, you're a Giants fan?
Yeah, Lolita and I were talking some jive about you a couple of days ago with the Dodgers hat. But
listen, I can appreciate it. I have, I grew up on the Central Coast. Okay. On the coast, Central meaning halfway between San Francisco and LA. And so half of my friends were Giants fans to this day. And, we give each other, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to give each other.
Rule.
That's the rule. And that's what being a fan is all about. But this has been an extraordinary year with them. It's been very civil. Actually, there's not a lot of trash talk going on because, we're trying to catch and they're looking over their shoulder trying to stay ahead. It's a tight one, and that's the way it should be.
I guess I should have worn orange instead of blue today, but whatever.
Either way, we'll see you in the playoffs.
Yes.
Either way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could talk baseball forever. Cirroc and I are always talking basketball, but everybody else is like, we don't care. We just want to hear more Jeff Combs impressions of his own characters.
I would point out there is a baseball connection here. There was a baseball on Captain Sisko's desk for 7 years. I
Mhm.
always love that. So
And Take Me Out to the Holosuite, one of the best episodes ever.
absolutely. I wish I were in it. I wish I were in that one.
Anyway,
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Jeff. We really appreciate it.
You guys are the best. Onward.
Thank you, Jeff.
And I'll be back.
Nice.
I hope I can come back onto your show here.
Absolutely.
Open
A+.
invite.
Yep.
Open invitation. Yep.
All right.
And everybody at
Great to
home,
see
we'll
you.
see you on the other side. So stick around on the 7th rule and follow Jeff on Twitter and tell him how incredible he was in this episode and all the others. And we do hope to see him on a future episode of any Paramount version of Star Trek. See you on the other
Dodged
side.
another bullet. I dodged another bullet.
See you on the other side on the 7th rule. Hey everybody, welcome back to the 7th rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
Nice. That was energetic. We are also joined by Lambda Quadrant's Callie Wright, also a podcast that you have called Queer Splaining, right, Callie?
That is correct.
So check that out,
Right.
everybody. But right now, it is time to get back into Lower Decks, back into this episode, because there's so much, like Cirroc and I always say, our notes for this episode of Lower Decks, they're always like a mile long. So let's hit them all. Let's knock them all out like Greg Louganis. I don't know. Is that a thing that
No, that's
No.
not.
No,
That's not a knock.
wasn't he a diver?
he was a diver and
Yeah,
then
he was
hit
a
his
diver.
head, but boy, he
Yeah.
knocked stuff out.
Quickly.
No, I just
Oh,
mean
man.
like he.
That got dark.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't mean
Yeah.
like he knocked himself out. I meant like he would knock things off his to-do list. Anyway, take two.
Yeah.
Hey, Callie Wright's here, everybody.
People are
So,
gonna be talking about you on Twitter, man. It's gonna go down.
people on Twitter do not talk shit about people. That I'm not worried. Twitter is the most wonderful.
Not Twitter.
Anyway, let's start off by saying Dr. Ta'ana is in your background. What's up with that?
Oh, I love her so much. She is do we go for a PG-13 vibe on the show, rated R vibe on the show? How we
I
feel
mean,
about
at this
that?
point, whatever, right?
Okay, that's fair. I want to respect. She
Gee.
is the grumpy bitch I aspire to be in life. Because she's such a quintessential Star Trek doctor, and that like she really knows her stuff and she really does a good job taking care of people, but she will complain about it the whole time. And I love it so much. And I just have this deep fascination with Caitians for some reason, even though
Yeah.
like in universe we know so very little about them. Which we did a couple of weeks ago. We got to learn a little bit more about them, which I'm very excited about.
You have
So,
a uniform too. I mean, are you being Dr. Ta'ana when you're wearing that uniform, or are you being a Tendi?
So I want to do Ta'ana, but I want to do it right. Like I want to have like an actual like orange cloth hood with the like a mask, and like I want to do that right. So that is in the plan. Like I even have the blue doctor's jacket for it. I did Tendi. The Cincinnati Comic Expo was last weekend, and I did Tendi. So I did the green face with the 3 dots, and I had my T-88 and my purple striped tricorder.
Wow.
Yeah, and then in Vegas I was doing, and no one got it, but I did the Trill on Lower Decks, Barnes. She has the bigger like cartoon like spots.
Yeah,
like I did those deliberately instead of the smaller spots, and nobody got it. I was like,
Aw,
what?
that was such a deep cut. Star Trek
It
fans gotta
was,
get this.
right? But like 3 or 4 people like, oh, so what are you? I'm like, Lower Decks Trill. Are you not like? What are you? I don't know.
Okay, so let's
Fine. I'm
speaking
not
of which, let's
upset.
talk about this episode. Cirroc and I just got done praising Jeff for about 30 minutes, and we could praise him for about 30 more hours about how amazing he is and how great he was in this episode. But Callie, how great do you think Jeff Combs was?
I love him so much. And it's a cartoon, so you can't do it any other way, but I did miss having his like physicality.
Yes.
Because his physicality is so much of what he brings to the characters that he plays like in DS9. And so I did miss that, like having him as like a disembodied voice instead of a character that you can see on camera. But it was so good. He played the sort of like deceptive, smart, like smooth operator thing so well. It was just, I don't know that they could have picked a better person for for the character that he plays in this episode.
Yeah. Now, Cirroc, you and Callie, both of you, were you picturing Jeff's face when he was doing funny or interesting lines? Because I would, every once in a while, when he'd say something crazy like that guacamole line I mentioned before, like I was like, okay, I know the face he made. I've seen Jeff Combs enough. And that made me laugh even more, was seeing in my mind's eye the funny face he was making or how he contorted himself. I mean, I missed seeing it on screen, but could you guys picture it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always picturing him because, you know, he's got a unique voice where you're like instantly going to recognize his voice. And on top of that, there were lines that he delivered that were hilarious. Like one where he says, clearly you should be the captain. And he was trying to suck up to the guy. So I was just like, this guy's good. He's trying any way. The suck up way, the manipulation way, hey, I have an idea. Why don't you just leave me over next to this spot? You know, and he was trying as many different ways as he could to manipulate the situation. So yeah, I'm always picturing Jeff Combs, but I kind of agree with Callie on that one because he does add so much because of the facial expressions he makes and the looks he gives with his eyes. So he does a whole lot of eye acting that is removed, and that's one of his strengths. So I definitely would like to see him also revived in one of these Star Trek incarnations, which we get to see him play a character again. That would be a real treat as well.
I'm still pressing for a short trek in which Jeffrey Combs plays every character. I think
oh wow.
That needs to happen because I don't know how familiar with like Star Trek Twitter or any of but there's a joke that goes around like, oh yeah, every character in Star Trek is played by Jeffrey Combs. So I think that would be really funny. And you know, I wasn't, mostly because I wasn't picturing him in my mind, because when I'm watching something, it's really, especially when I'm watching it for the first time or the second time or the third time before it gets really familiar, it's really hard for me to analyze something while it's happening. And so in my mind, like that is just the disembodied computer voice of Jeffrey Combs saying all of those funny things. And to me, that actually makes it funnier. Like that made it more enjoyable for me, that, you know, the sort of like sneaky, shifty, like shady character is this disembodied computer voice, but it's a voice that I like, of course, recognize because you can't not. So yeah, I was not picturing it in my head, but that's just because of like the specific way that I experience fiction. Like DS9 that I've seen, you know, dozens and dozens of times. Obviously, I'm analyzing the hell out of that as I'm watching it now. But new stuff, I can't really do that with.
Yeah. You know, there are also a few NAMs, non-appearance mentions in this. We got the Titan again, which I'm not even sure if we count ships, but they definitely do mention the Titan a lot. We got another Data mention. They sure love mentioning Data recently. And 7 of 9. I think that's the first time we heard them say, yes, it is. First time we've seen or heard a mention of 7 of 9. I don't know if you guys caught any others that I may have missed.
I don't think so. The one tiny little offhand comment that really got me is that apparently we find out that Boimler is a podcaster, like a 24th century version of a podcaster.
I missed that.
He's in the beginning, he's like, you know, shining his phaser rifle and Mariner's like giving him crap for it. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go down to this planet. It's going to be great for, I forget exactly what he calls it, but basically he insinuates that he has like the 24th century version of a travel podcast.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Like, oh, this is going to be great for this. And I was like, of course they would make him the one who is like blogger, podcaster, content creator.
Right. He's got 2 listeners, but that's his pickup line. You know, I'm a podcaster, so, you know, maybe you want to hang out with me.
I'm a podcaster and I was on the Titans.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, let me tell you about the Titan some more. I thought that was funny. Mariner was like, enough about the Titan already.
She calls it his study abroad program, which I died.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, another line
wow.
that Agamus said that cracked me up, speaking of Mariner, there are a lot of lines that I thought he had really great delivery. But this was definitely one, was when he said, "My scans indicate you could lose a couple pounds anyway." But it was mostly like the way he said it that just killed me. I just love his delivery and everything. And obviously, I didn't write down her response, but her response was also excellent. It was, again, not the line itself wasn't terribly funny, but just the way she delivered it with disgust and annoyance. Hey, Callie, Jeff and I like black licorice. Cirroc says no. Can we put this away once and for all? Yes, right?
Black licorice is good, comma, actually. Yep.
Comma, actually, in case you were wondering. Punctuation there.
I love you, Cirroc, but I think you're wrong, my friend.
We should start calling it not for blacks licorice.
Is that a thing?
I think it's a black thing. Because I don't know any black people that like black licorice. We eat the red vines. We eat red licorice. I just don't know any black people eating black licorice. So
have you ever been?
Is deceptive.
It's deceptive. Have you ever been on any set ever that didn't have the big jug of red vines?
No, they all have red.
They all do, but but they never have the black vines. I don't know. Okay,
nobody eats black licorice except.
Well, we're gonna find out.
I was going to say, in fairness, black people, white people, any kind of people, I don't know many people at all that like black licorice, to be fair.
That's true.
Yeah.
All my French family loves the black licorice, especially like the unsweetened, like super intense stuff. Oh, I should show you some of that. It's just like eating tar or like motor oil.
I don't know about unsweetened. Oh, so you love eating motor oil? Got it. Okay.
Learn a thing about Brian.
It's one of the alcohols like a licorice type of taste, like a Jägermeister, or isn't it Jägermeister? It tastes kind of like a
Sambuca.
And I can't stand either one of those. Just for the record, just the alcohol version even bothers me.
All right, this is a question just for the black people in the audience, both of you. Is what Cirroc is saying true, that black people don't like black licorice? Because right now, when you said that, I started racking my brain. I was like, shit, I don't know if I know any black people that like black licorice. You may be honest.
No.
You may be.
Frankly, I don't think I know anyone besides me that likes it. So. No.
Yeah, the smell is it's just. I actually wrote it in my notes. Black licorice. I actually had to write it in my notes.
It was the perfect thing to pick for that scene, though, right? Like, because I feel like even somebody like me, like I do enjoy black licorice. I'm not joking about that, but I also understand that most people don't, and so it was still just a really funny thing that, like, when the replicator malfunctions, that's what it gives you. Like, yeah, it's probably going to keep you alive, but you're going to have a bad time. Whereas, I feel like in a more traditional Star Trek show, that wouldn't have been a plot point, right? The replicator would just be broken. But in Lower Decks, it's like, oh yeah, it works fine. It's just going to only give you something terrible.
And I like Mariner's line. She said, "The least nutritious thing that tastes the most like poison." Yeah. I'm like, that's what I think of when I think of it. That's actually funny.
Yep.
And clearly Mariner, a black person, another animated one.
Oh shit, you're right. That's another point.
Doesn't like black.
All right, well, just so you guys know, I just in that time, I just texted 3 of my buddies to ask them, 3 of the black variety. So far, the first one has already responded. Big no from me. So it's another point in Cirroc's camp right now.
I'm telling you.
By the end of this.
Survey says.
Yeah, survey says, ding! 100 people said no.
100 out of 100.
Yeah.
Right. But there was a whole nother plot line to this. I guess the main story, the other story was this Billups, right? Lieutenant Billups and the Ren Fair and the virginity issue and all of that. I thought that was kind of
Billups must be at all costs. God, I love him so much.
I thought that was a funny little.
What was his mom's name? I think Chauncey, right?
Oh gosh, no.
I kept focusing on the fact that his first name is Andorethio, I think.
Right.
Which is great.
Oh wow.
Andorethio. Yeah.
I had sort of mixed feelings about that plot line until I thought about it for a minute, because I was thinking like Ren Fair culture is not my thing, but I have friends who are super, super into Ren Fairs. And so I have like a tangential familiarity with Ren Fair culture. And, you know, they set up this premise where like you have to have had sex in order to be in a leadership position. And I was like, are they like making a joke about how few Ren Fair people have sex? Because if so, that's a sorely misinformed point of view. Or are they like trying to make a statement about how horny Ren Fair culture is? Because that's what I know to be true about it in terms of the people that I know. And I thought that was a really interesting plot line, because, you know, asexuality is something that there is so little representation of anywhere. And I'm not asexual, but I have tons of friends who are, and I want them to feel seen as much as I do by the queer and the trans and non-binary characters. And so I immediately like texted Anna, somebody else from Lambda Quadrant, she's ace, and I was like, hey, like, am I reading this right? Is he our like Star Trek asexual icon? And she's like, yeah, I think so. Because like at first it's a cultural pressure thing, right? He's like, no, I don't want to have sex because I don't want to be king. But later they kind of make a thing about how he's like really like physically not into it. And I'm like, okay, so maybe he's our asexual character, which is rad. Like I love that for my ace friends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I did too. I thought it was funny, especially when the two people he was about to have sex with were kind of sitting there kind of like this while he's in the bathroom, like looking at himself in the mirror. And I thought they were warming so ready to get it on.
Yep.
They were so ready. Warming up.
Man. I don't know what he was going to do to warm up, but I did kind of expect like a joke, like when he's leaving, like the two sitting on the bed would be like, okay, well, you want to just get it on, you know, like the two of them just be like, okay, well, whatever, you know, you're still here, I'm still here, but no such luck.
No, they were waiting for the prince to show that he's more than just a royal stud.
Speaking of royal stud, we got our second response to the the flash licorice poll by our good buddy Mr. Darnell Davis. He made a joke though that maybe, you know, so we he didn't answer yes or no. He made kind of a joke, so we'll let him text a second. I was gonna say, but I was like, you know, maybe better not. Better not. So far, our buddy Andre Kottman says big no. Darnell, who knows?
Well, we're really stirring up the pot with this black licorice topic.
Right.
Who knew that would be the highlight after all of the stuff they cover in this episode? Right. That would be the thing.
See, look, okay, like right here, I've got two French black licorice things. One is cashew, right?
Yeah.
And the other one is gastrozon. And they're like super intense. Like they're just little black, like BBs that like they turn your whole mouth black and your black and stuff. I'll send you some, Cirroc.
You said
no, thank you.
I don't think I could get into that. I like
well, you got to let that get into you.
Try it.
Callie, I wanted to bring up the point that you brought up about the Ren fairs and stuff, because what I see Lower Decks doing a very good job of is kind of trolling the subculture of Star Trek. They're so good at trolling Star Trek itself. So they go back, they bring up old characters from every show, all the old animated stuff. But they also talk about like the collectibles, and you know, Boimler wanted an autograph for his plate.
Yeah.
You know, so they troll. Right. So they this show, unlike any other, is doing a fantastic job of trolling its own fan base. And I think the call and the shout out to the Ren Fair stuff is also kind of saying, hey, we know a lot of our fans do this too, just like we know they play, you know, live action role playing games, that we know that they do the Dungeons and Dragons stuff. So there's a lot of crossover on, you know, different areas. And so they like touching on these things a lot in Lower Decks. And I think it's kind of a fun thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, what often makes for good comedy is that very simple setup, right? Because like if completely out of context, I say some Ren Fair folks went and started a colony somewhere and now they have a whole civilization, like immediately that's ripe for comedy, right? Like I don't need in the context of a show that's 25 minutes, right? Like there has to be a hook that this thing is inherently funny because there's no time to build context and make it funny, right? And the idea of an entire spacefaring civilization based on Ren Fairs, like I don't need to be told why that's hilarious, because even though that's not my specific kind of nerdery, like I am that kind of a nerd about Star Trek, and so like I get it on that level. And you can just tell that it's very obviously made by people who are nerds like we are nerds. And I don't think something has to be in order to be good, but I think in order to be good the way Lower Decks is, it does. Like I feel so seen as a Star Trek fan in every episode.
Yes.
But what's also great is my wife is a very casual Star Trek fan. Like we watch it together sometimes and she likes it, but it's not like her life like it is mine, and she still absolutely loves it even though she doesn't get most of the like references and inside jokes.
Right. I don't either, but I still enjoy Lower Decks a lot because the writing is so clever. I mean, I like, for example, when they were trying to look at the mechanics of the Ren Fair ship, and he's like, the dragon's blood flame, you know.
So good.
And Rutherford is like, what? He's like, oh, we have to make everything sound like magic, you know.
Right. So, and then Rutherford tries to join. He's like, the alpha. No, don't. Just
don't do it. Yeah.
But I think what's so great about it is that like underneath all of the like silly references and comedy, like it is real Star Trek, right? Like these are real Star Trek characters in real Star Trek plots that use classic Trek style problem solving, right? Like, and I mean, we see that even more. There's like so many subtle tropes that's like, oh yeah, like Star Trek always does this thing. When I watch Lower Decks, I'm like, oh, I see what that's about. I see what they're doing there. And that's the way that Rutherford immediately sort of tries to switch into being like, oh, okay, like with these people, I got to talk the way they do.
Yeah.
Thing, right? It's so great. And then like thinking deeply about some of the character interactions, like on the planet, Boimler actually like lays hands on Mariner, right?
Yeah. I was wondering if that was actually going to happen because it looked like they were setting it up and they're just two Starfleet officers battling it out.
And this, you know, in the context of the story, it's before we know that it's an act. And so like it kind of makes sense. Like he's actually been convinced by this computer of, you know, whatever's happening. And then, you know, we find out it's all an act and it's like, wow, like he took that really far. I don't know that I like that. Like you don't like, that's not cool. But then I think about Mariner and like, she's too smart. Like he had to do that to convince her that it was real, right? Otherwise she would have known he was faking.
Plus he's not worried that he'd be able to beat her up anyway. He's like, I'm sure she's going to kick my ass. With one broken arm too. She's going to kick my ass for this. I'm going to get it.
It's just a fracture. It's just a fracture. Such a good line. It's just a fracture.
I like the line, evil computers are so chatty. I was like, yeah, it is. You have to, when you think back at evil computers, they're always talking a lot and like revealing their plan or, you know, or trying to have this really heart-to-heart conversation with whoever they're trying to take over. It's like, you got a real chatty computer, you know? So yes, I like that line again.
There are so many plots that would have gone differently if the bad guy would just not have explained what their plan was and like killed the person, right? Like there's so many plots that depend on the bad guy giving this big exposition of what their plans are. You know, and we see that at the end, like not to jump too far forward, but you know, when they put Agamus away, like all of the computers are just talking shit about how they're going to take everything over.
You know, I was expecting to see a computer or something that we recognize because Lower Decks really has us trained to practically assume that there's going to be some Easter eggs. Now, one thing I do want to mention, our good buddy, Mr. Don Crandall, who always catches these things. He mentioned that the murderous computer or a computer that controls an entire planet in a negative way is mainly a original series cliche. He says we saw it in original series episodes, The Return of The Return of the Archons, The Apple, and For the World is Hollow, and I Have Touched the Sky. But he also mentioned something I hadn't even considered. He said Agamis's murder drones, remember when he's saying, I'll create some murder drones to destroy the whole planet or whatever, they look kind of like Next Generation's Arsenal of Freedom, right? You remember that one?
Yep.
I
thought about that too. I forgot the name of the episode, but I remember because it's early TNG that I do visit sometimes, but not all the time. And it does. It's like the bigger head up top, the little scoop looking thing underneath.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Although I will say I'm not the one who caught this. I saw somebody pointed out on Twitter. One of the evil computers has the CBS logo on it, I think. Unless that was a Photoshop that somebody
made. No way. I doubt that.
I'm gonna have to go back and look. But somebody said.
Here's the murder drone, Cirroc, from a first season Next Generation episode.
Okay, so the murder drones theme has been used before.
Yeah. And one of the ways that, speaking of murderous computers, one of the ways that Riker finds out it's a computer is that the computer like takes a form of someone he knows, and Riker's like, "Oh yeah, I'm on the USS Lollipop," and the person who is supposedly his friend is like, "Oh yeah, the good ship Lollipop," and Riker's like, "Okay, that's
got it."
Great early TNG.
Yeah.
So we only have a couple minutes left because we're cramming a ton into 1.5 hour portion, just like Lower Decks does. But we do always have time for Cirroc's favorite line of the episode.
Oh, my favorite line of the episode.
You may have already given it.
No, I haven't. This is it right here. I've been waiting for this question all my life. You can run your full diagnostic along my bottom up.
Yeah. How did I know? That's the one. That's the big money maker. Right there. I mean, I didn't get it. But
would you like me to explain it?
Okay.
No, that hands down best line in this episode. I thought it was. I had to rewind it a few times because she kind of gives him the look like. And I was like, wow, this is a great line.
Honorable mention for how like T'Ana seemed to be genuinely sad to tell Tendi when they thought Rutherford was dead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she has that look on her face. I'm like, oh, she's not going to be mean. And that makes me love her even more because that means that she is genuinely caring. By the way, quick poll. Yeah. Did either of you know what was happening immediately when the ship blew up and they're like, oh my God, Rutherford's dead?
Well, yeah. Well, we knew Rutherford was going to be dead.
Yeah, well, he could have been dead, and then they brought him back to life like they did Shaq. So I wasn't necessarily 100%. So there was a possibility that they were dead. So yeah, I wasn't sure. No, I wasn't sure. Were you?
No, it took me a second. I forget exactly which moment it was. I think it was when Tendi is looking and she sees his headpiece, like, and she's like still getting a reading. I was like, oh, okay, they faked it. So, because the queen is like, because they did a lot of signaling, like the queen pulls a lot of tricks,
Yeah.
Right.
That's one of the Star Trek tropes, right? Like they make an offhand reference to something at the beginning of the episode that turns out, like in the beginning, it seems completely inconsequential, and it turns out to be like super vital to the plot at the end. The very, very classic Trek trope that Lower Decks has adopted a lot, and I was like,
has nailed. Right, you have to pay attention to every single line with Lower Decks. There are no wasted motions, no wasted lines. They're really good with that. And shout out to that queen. I don't know who the actress was that played the queen, but very good voiceover work from her. There are a lot of little extra people too that did some really good voiceover, like the one Cirroc mentioned from the bottom up. That was also excellent. But all around, another great episode. Personally, I enjoyed it very much. It was fun. Yeah. It was quick, fast paced, lots of funny jokes, lots of great delivery by Mr. Jeff Combs, but also the rest of the crew did a great job. And they had different storylines going, right? When Dr. T'Ana was talking to Tandy for a moment. Then Tandy goes and finds Rutherford, and before that, it's Rutherford and Billups. I mean, they do this great job of incorporating everybody, and Mariner and Boimler have all their moments with Jeff.
Pulling an A and B story together in 25 minutes is seriously impressive work. Like that was a thing that I was worried about, like, pre-seeing any Lower Decks. It's like, wow, it's going to be shorter. Like, like how are they going to format the stories? And I found myself not even thinking about that at first, like in so many of the episodes where there's definitely an A and a B story that, Star Trek classically took 42, 43 minutes to do, and like didn't always do perfectly well. I don't feel like Lower Decks has done a bad job of it yet, like managing two different stories in such a short time.
Sometimes three.
Yeah. Sometimes three. Yeah. I think this show has started off the best out of almost all of the series. They have hit the ground, they know their identity, and they've hit the ground running, and maybe they have the advantage of the shorter time, so they don't have to fill up an hour worth of stuff and stretch things out. They also have the advantage of animation, so they can kind of go anywhere they want and don't have to build any sets or whatever. But the writing is clever, the voiceover work is great, and the whole thing, it moves along quickly. It's believable. You care about the characters, you identify with the characters. They have their own personalities. I also want to say that I think the "you've been boimed." I think there was a line.
Yes.
That just is going to be.
I think that'll catch on. I think "you've been boimed" will catch on soon.
Have you boinged us with the licorice talk? You really do like it, right?
You've been boinged on that one. No. I don't like it.
Damn.
And then the other thing that was funny is when Artemis,
Artemis Prime.
Artemis, yes. When he at the end, when he's like, I hooked you up to the light switch, and he's like, well, I'll blind you.
Yeah.
You see the light going on and
flickering.
So many little things, like when they're walking through the doorway and he's got his little like tendrils trying to hold on to the door, like just like little stuff like that.
Details.
That like, I don't know that I would have missed it if that wasn't a thing, but it definitely added to it. And honestly, like I think that's the thing that makes me love Lower Decks so much, is that it feels so much like it is real Star Trek, right? Totally. Like it's not a parody. It's because I've heard people call it that, and I hate that. I would love a good Star Trek parody, but Lower Decks is not that.
It's not. No, it's an original. It's its own thing. And really quickly, just for the record, because I know you guys know better than me, what is the reference to burying Data's head? That went
right.
over
What
my
was
head.
that episode?
That was
Times Arrow, maybe.
Well, so there's Times Arrow, where they find his head beneath San Francisco, and they end up going back in time and meeting Mark Twain and all that whole thing. Yeah. And then there is in Nemesis. They find one of his brother's heads buried in the sand, and that's how they lure the Enterprise out.
Okay. Mystery solved. All right, we got to run. Everybody at home, don't forget your homework. Black licorice. We got Darnell did end up texting back and saying that no, he doesn't like it either. So far we're just waiting on Rico. Yes. I'll let you know as soon as Rico responds. All right. Anyway, everybody at home, thank you all very much for joining in the fun. Leave us a comment below. Tell us all about Black Licorice or Red Vines, or just about this episode, and say what a great job Callie did. Tell us how much you enjoyed watching Jeff Combs. And by watching, I mean listening, really, right? Anyway, thanks very much, Callie. Yeah. You were awesome. Cirroc, once again, good time as always. We'll see you all very soon. And always remember the 7th rule.